Okay, so that is live at the moment. And that looks good there. Let's see if that like popped out a thing on Twitter. Let's see. Yep, so it put out a thing on Twitter. I got my stepkids downstairs. They're gonna tell me if like the audio and stuff sounds good.
Okay.
Let me just yell at them real quick just to see what they're hearing on YouTube. Hey Jasper, are you watching it on YouTube yet? So listen to it for a minute and then come up here and tell me if you hear too much echo, okay? Huh? Yeah. So how many domains does that CISSP have now?
I believe 7 or 8, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. So,
But
or I think back in the day it was like 10.
let me check, because I know they recently, I think it was like 2018, they switched up. So it has eight domains now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if they were going to actually condense that, or I mean, there's probably a lot more content for them to use now than there was back when I took it, but I wasn't sure whether or not they were going to move into like 14 domains, and then that's just like wild.
I figured I would have, with cyber coming along,
Yep.
I thought it would have like increased.
No, you guys gotta stay out there and let me know how it sounds.
Oh, it sounds fine.
Okay, you can hear both of us talking okay? And there's no echo?
Yeah.
No echo. Okay. We'll see. We'll see if anybody else hops on. Here, let me put out a thing on there. Checked up here. Cool. So, yeah, you were saying?
But yeah, so I would think with cyber coming along, it would have like made more domains to it, but it's not that many domains. It's 8, but it still covers so much. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it gives me a headache just think about it. Now I'm going through flashcards now and doing the practice exams, but I'm trying to understand it and not just memorize it, because eventually that question bank repeats itself. So I'm trying to just understand the material.
Now, are you you just like trying to focus on like one domain at a time, like each day, or are you just kind of going through a few different things each day? And
So when I watched the cyber video, I watched all of it, went through it, and it turns out I know more than I thought I knew about the exam, the content on the exam. So I would go take the practice exam.
Yep.
And then it shows like the percentages of like where domain you need to work on, and I go back and touch on that, and I just keep doing it that way. So, but I think the hardest domain in my opinion so far has been the software testing.
Oh.
Because I don't deal with none of that. Like, no, and then when I was a computer science major, I sucked at it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the hardest one to me.
Like covering like the software development lifecycle and stuff like that, or is it?
It has a bit of those. It has like the agile and the
waterfall, all that
stuff like that. It has now that portion is pretty easy, but it's more like when they get into like the regression testing and stress levels and stuff like that. It's various things that go into it, but those are the portions that hit me the hardest.
Now,
but
under like software stuff, do they also go into like the EAL levels? So like the
they do the 10 EAL levels. Yeah, they go into that, and they have like some I don't know what you call it. I forgot what you call it when you got to remember like the first letter of everything so you can memorize it or whatever. And I'm trying to memorize that now, but they have those on there. I ran into that question like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Which domain are you finding the easiest?
I would say asset security. That physical security, that's pretty easy.
Yep.
Um, those two to me are the easiest. But they also say asset security is only like 10% of the exam, so it's not going to hit as hard me getting those right. So
Yep.
the hardest in my opinion would be software and
How are you
trying.
with the crypto stuff?
Hmm?
How are you with the crypto stuff?
I think I'm pretty good. I keep consistently getting 80s on that domain also,
Yeah.
but it's more so uh, trying to memorize like the like RSA, DES, stuff like that because it's so many acronyms that what makes it hard. I wouldn't say the content of it is hard. It's remembering the acronyms that comes along with that. So knowing which one's symmetric, which one's asymmetric, and different qualities that separate them from each other. That definitely is one of the hardest parts about it.
You want to use a different, and then the amount of bits for each of them and the key, all that type of stuff.
That I had a question about that earlier with which one's 128 bit, which one's this, what it's just so a lot of stuff. It's like I tell people that the ones that are asking me about the exam, I wouldn't say it's a hard exam, but it's just a broad exam. Like it's like a mile wide, an inch deep, and you don't have to be an expert in everything. You just have to be widespread. You got to have a widespread knowledge. So studying for the exam is different than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So, but one thing I can say that I've heard a lot was that you have to have a management aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I find that it gives it depends on what domain you're in when that comes into play. More so when risk management is in it, then that's when I find that you have to have a managerial type of thought process on it. But other than that, it's not as cracked out to what people make it seem to be.
Well, I think the thing that a lot of people have a challenge with is the perspective of answering the questions on the test with the answers that they want versus the answers that are actually realistically correct.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because they're very specific in how their definitions fit into certain scenarios.
Yeah.
But in the real world, it might not actually be what's right in your organization or what you're doing.
Exactly. I find that to be the case with various exams. Like book knowledge is different from actual hands-on experience. But it just builds that the book knowledge is supposed to build that foundation. But like you say, depending on the organization, everything is going to be different.
Yeah.
It's totally different. So yeah, I run into that a lot when I'm studying because I'll be like, well, this is how we handle it here, but the exam wants me to answer it this way, and that's when you gotta think of it as, okay, they're the ones giving me the exam. Although it might be correct in my organization, I gotta answer it by what they want it to be, by their standard instead. So that goes into play with that a lot. Yeah.
And so how many more days you got before the test?
So I take it February 7th. So I got about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm studying. I wake up before work. I study. Huh?
You get the note cards? You doing the note cards?
Yeah, actually, CyberSecurity had note cards for each domain.
Yep.
So I went and downloaded those, and I'm going through those today after we get off. But yeah, I'm taking it day by day.
I was work. So when I got them, they came in like a box, like a box of like baseball cards, right? Like a whole set of baseball cards. And so I just went through, broke them up into the different domains, and then every day I just would bring a different group or a different domain with me to work, and just flip through it, throughout the day.
Yeah.
And try to go at it that way. And I think that probably helped the most because you were just like reinforcing the exact definition of whatever the terms were.
And that's true because as I was doing the practice questions on the question banks, some of them are like definition specific. Mm-hmm. And it's like they'll tweak little words around and that catches you. Like a lot of like every answer will look exactly the same. It'll be just small little aspects of it that, you have to pay attention to. I ran into that quite a few times, and they caught me slipping.
Yeah,
So
you definitely need to keywords and the definitions.
mm-hmm.
I'll throw that at you where there might be something that's like the answer is a little bit more ambiguous,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're like, man, these two answers, it really could be either one, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You've got to go with the one where you're just like, man, I know that I've read this thing like 10 times, and these are like closer to the exact words of how they described it.
Yeah.
Just, go with it that way.
So the thing that I try to do is like not overload myself
Mm-hmm.
and try not to rethink my I want to say, well, yeah, rethink on it. I'll just go with my first answer, because when I rethink it, I'll start digging too deep and I find myself going down that rabbit hole. And then that's when everything starts to blur together. And I'm just like, I don't know which one it is now. and when you go back and review it, it turns out to be the one you chose the first. So I try to stick with my answer as soon as I do it. But reading the question and understanding the question is the best thing to do. And make sure you read every answer, because every answer could be right, but they want the best answer.
Exactly.
Out of four. Yeah, I run into that quite a lot too while I'm studying.
And it's from their perspective, so which throws you off.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I would, if my advice to somebody who else would be studying, I would be like to get their actual book, because I actually have the actual book. I haven't cracked it open yet, but I think if I do it, it'll probably be better for me.
Yeah.
Especially seeing things from their perspective and not real world perspective, So, what were some of the challenges you ran into when you took it?
So, I mean, kind of the same thing as you. Like, it's just so much information.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not stuff that you deal with, like in your day-to-day job, like. I don't deal, or at that time, didn't deal with like, the different types of fire extinguishers, right? Type A, type B. Man, I don't care about that. What, like, paid to make sure that the right fire extinguishers are in the data center.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, stuff like that. I'm trying to remember what other domains. I mean, so like the crypto stuff I was more familiar with, because it definitely was, aligned with the type of work I was doing, but it was challenging for the same reasons that you said, right?
Yeah.
Just because there's so much information and understanding the nuances between the different algorithms and stuff like that. I'm trying to think. Some of the other administrative stuff. Like, I don't even know. Do they still cover like the orange book and the blue book and all that?
They do have some questions like that, but
dude, that's like so old at this point.
Yeah, like
it's like, why even talk about it?
Exactly, because I was looking at it, and in the cyber videos, Kelly Underhand, I think her name is, she says it probably would not be on the exam, but I see it come up in the question bank, so that catches me off guard. Another thing is knowing the BIBA. Those get me, the Clark Wilson model and everything. Yeah,
the different type of permission.
Like read up, read down, write up, write down. Yeah. Strong star, all that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a lot. So the model that I chose, since I'm military, I chose the Bell Lapata, I think that's how you say it. And that fits more the military, and I base everything off that. So I know the BIBA is like the opposite of that model, and it covers integrity, whereas the other one covers confidentiality. And that's how I try to remember everything. But it's just a lot.
It would be better when they're like explaining that if they actually tied it more to specific. I'm trying to think, like operating systems or things that are real world applicable that we're used to dealing with all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you're talking about the type of access control methodology that like Windows uses, right? From the perspective of you have an owner of the data and then they set permissions on stuff, whether it's individually to groups or people, or if you're going to be doing stuff where, you know, anybody with a certain level of access automatically gets
Yeah.
ability to access whatever the file is or stuff like that. So I think, at least I remember from studying and reading the book, it was kind of like these ideas are a lot more abstract as far as the way that they're explaining them, instead of talking about them in a way that directly correlates them with stuff that we do like day to day.
Yeah, they definitely like it's still the same. Nothing's changed really. From what I've seen in my studying process is they give you a chart.
Yeah.
And that's all you have. I've searched for stuff to help me, like, because when I can relate it to real world stuff or situation scenarios and stuff like that, then I understand it better. But it's harder to do that when you can't, you know. So it would be better if they would do that. The only reason why I remember the bell is because I can see that from a military perspective. That's the only reason why I remember. If I wasn't in the military, I'd probably forget it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't understand it. So
yeah,
and it's easy to understand it from, like, I relate that model to mandatory access controls where they have security labels and stuff like that. So
I'm gonna pull up just giggles. Just the other domains. So it was security and risk management, asset security, security architecture and engineering, communications and network security, identity and access management, security assessment and testing, security operations, and the software development security. Yeah. I would say probably, looking at those, my strongest ones probably would be in the security architecture and engineering and the communications and network security.
That's one of my strong ones, the communication and network security. That's my bread and butter. You never know how much you know until you actually do it or take those practice exams. And I'm consistently getting 100% on those. And they'll give me like 26, 27 questions of that, and I get them all right. It's just that software section. Software section whoops me every time, every single time.
Well, once you pass this, if you want to in the future, so their architecture cert, which I got that maybe, I don't know, 5 years ago, really focuses much more on like those domains.
Yeah.
And so I actually found that, even though it's supposed to be like a more advanced cert in like their hierarchy of certs, right? I found it much easier to study and pass that than the CISSP, just because it was stuff that was a lot more in my wheelhouse, right? So it was like, yeah, I definitely had to study for it, but the stuff I was studying, there wasn't anything that I hadn't at least already been aware of, right?
So with that, they like sort of focused in on it, on just that. Okay, yeah.
At least when I took it, I think it only focused on 3 or 4 domains.
Okay.
Instead of, the CISSP being a mile wide and an inch thick, right? This was a lot more in depth into like those 3 or 4 domains.
Okay.
Right, and I think they should have like 3 specialty or more advanced.
I think I saw one that, like you said, architecture. I think I saw one with health, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so there's the ISSAP, which is what I have, and then there's the ISSEP. Is the architecture one. The EP is their engineering one, but it's kind of weird because the engineering really, at least when I remember looking at it, it was more so like understanding different engineering standards. So you think that it would be more like nuts and bolts and stuff like that, and it wasn't so much that. At least when I looked at it before, I think it was understanding different NIST frameworks and stuff like that. Here, let me see if I pop this up over here for a second. Don't want to do that. Let's
Was the architecture one more so based off like the organization's infrastructure?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So let's get rid of this guy here. And if we just go trying to get rid of that and make this a little bit bigger. I don't know if I actually want to do that. Hold on one second. I ended up going down a rabbit hole here and kind of okay. Yeah, okay. So yeah, so there's three. It is the architecture, so that ASSAP, which is the architecture one, the ISSEP, which is the engineering one, and then they have a management one, which is the ISSNP.
Okay.
And you have to, I believe you have to have a CISSP already to be able to take it. And let's see. The architecture one is exactly kind of like how I explained it. The engineering one is the ability to apply system engineering principles and processes to develop secure systems. See that they really give that much of a good breakdown there on their website. It's kind of just like super high level. But yeah, I mean, so I would think that if those are the areas that you're super comfortable with, then going after that architecture one would make sense.
I think I will. I was originally going to go for the CAP exam.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I told my mentor, I was like, yeah, I think after I get CIS, I'm done. I just keep on that one.
Well, you should take
It's
a little bit.
I think I will. I think that'll probably be my last exam for this whole year.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll just focus on getting started on my master's after this. But man, he told me, he was like, that's not going to be your last one because you're going to get hungry for more and you're going to go for another one. And I was just like, yeah, maybe. Yeah. We'll see, man.
Eventually you'll get to maybe where you're just like, I'm good.
Yeah.
And you kind of like, I don't know. So certs is kind of funny, right? Certs, especially like in your case where you're going to be like transitioning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Military into like the civilian world and stuff like that. Then the certs are going to help you like really be able to knock down that door and get in there. And like once you get in there and you have the certs and you're going to go for your masters, you're going to end up like really establishing yourself kind of in that environment. And then you might find like the stuff that you want to learn maybe isn't directly tied to a certification.
Yeah.
Right? And then you're just going to kind of go off and I don't know, lab stuff on your own that you know, the goal isn't necessarily to get certified in it. It's just like these are things that are really going to help you in your specific role that you're working on, or I don't know, just something you really enjoy.
Yeah. I was thinking about the cloud stuff and everything, but I had to like reel myself back in because I don't want to spread myself too thin. I want to, focus on one. I have to get this out the way and actually start my transition process and see what I don't like or do like about the route that I'm taking and then maneuver from that point. I just don't want to be a jack of all trades and don't know what I want to do and have everything like, because a lot of that knowledge that I get, I don't use it on a daily basis. Like a lot of the knowledge that I have to come back to my room and study this stuff because on my job, I'm a help desk manager, and I work outside my job to learn these things where I can. So I don't want to get so much, and then these expire 3 years from now, and I get out, and they'll be like, "Oh, we see you have this cert. Well, what do you know about this?" And I'll be like, "I only studied that just to get the cert. I haven't studied that the last 2 or 3 years, So that's a big thing about getting certs. I get told all the time, "Don't get too many certs. Don't get too many certs. Don't get a lot of certs." But as long as the military is going to give it to me for free, I'm going to take those certs regardless. Like.
For sure.
But I'll have them, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be upfront in my interviews and let them know, like, listen, this was given to me for free and I took it. but I'm not a master in this. Like I'm letting know. I let people know all the time. I have CCNA now,
Yep.
but by no means am I a networking guru. I don't consider myself that, because that CCNA exam, it hit me. It hit me hard. And I didn't think I was gonna pass, but I passed. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
I mean, you scored really good on it for that being like a really short term turnaround on that. Like,
Yeah, yeah. So I started. They had already told me they would give me the voucher in December, and I was like, okay. So I started studying for like December 2nd, sometime around that time frame.
yep.
In the military, they dropped the ball all the time, and I was like, you know what? I don't think they're gonna give it to me. And then they was like, yeah, we have these expiring vouchers. You got this amount of time to take it. And I was like, all right, well, give it to me right now. I'll study over the weekend, and I passed. So lucky me.
You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of being in the military and when it's like the end of the fiscal year and like you weren't planning on like having to buy anything, and then they come
Mhm.
and they're like, "Hey, we got like 50
Something.
you got to spend on stuff. Just
Yeah.
what do you guys want? What do you guys need?" And it's like, man, if you come to us 2 months ago, we'd be able to like put some thought into some particular things. Instead of now, we got to like tomorrow afternoon to
Exactly.
just make up some stuff
And
that
see, I wish I don't know how it is in other organizations or other units, but in my unit, instead of that extra money that we got, it doesn't go into the soldiers or stuff like that. And I think that's something that it should do. Like you got a group of signal soldiers that can help. Like if you better them, they'll pour that knowledge into your organization and making it better. But they'd rather go buy a million tablets and different switches and routers that's just sitting it's sitting in the closet. Like, and then we just turn it back in. You're like, come on, like,
yeah.
I don't know.
I
It's
don't,
money.
I'm sure that there's something somewhere where that money gets allocated into certain buckets.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, training doesn't necessarily equate to, hardware, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Being an allowable expense or whatever, which sucks.
They give us the baseline, whatever the baseline of whatever we need. I know as soon as we come into this unit, you got to have Security Plus. So they send you to the boot camp or whatever to get you certified, and then if you're a ComSec manager, they'll send you to a ComSec class.
Yep.
But that's it. But then you got the people like me and a few other people that came in with Security Plus. We already have it. So what are we gaining from coming here? We came to this unit to get better, and I don't know. It's the military, so that's how things work. This is how things work.
So, one thing that I was going to say, so kind of like in that same like thought as far as like the money and stuff, especially so like once you transition and you get into an environment where you're going to be doing like procurement for hardware and stuff like that, one good thing to try to negotiate whenever you're buying stuff like that is to get the training for whatever type of software or equipment included in that purchase order. Right.
And that's I like you. I'll touch on that after you get done.
So, a lot of times people don't even think about that. Most vendors are willing to throw stuff in free sometimes. And even if they're not, you probably would be able to get it a lot more discounted. Or, I don't know, there's certain ways you can leverage it to where it would be beneficial for like the people in your engineering group.
Yeah.
People don't even think about that when they're like, oh, okay, we're just going to go buy some switches, or we're going to go buy a firewall, or we're going to go buy, VMware, or we're going to go do, whatever. But you can really have the salespeople, because I mean, salespeople want to sell as much stuff as they can, and if so, throwing in some training, which isn't really going to cost them anything, is going to seal that deal, then more often than not, they're willing to do that.
Definitely, yeah. So we use like everybody else, we use mostly Cisco, and the routers and switches and the firewalls that they bought, it comes with learning credits, which you can put towards the boot camps and the vouchers and stuff like that. And that's how I ended up getting my CCNA voucher, was through the extra learning credits that was applied to the contract that they use. So,
cool.
But I didn't know anything about it too. I just thought that was just something between the military and Cisco. But if it works, like, they need to do that more often for different stuff. And our warrant officer said that CCNA should be a baseline because they expect us to work on this equipment, but how are we going to work on this equipment if we don't have the proper training for it?
Yep.
You know, it's easy to learn off what the next person does, but when you have that, I think institutional training is a good foundation and a good way so that you can understand it on the job. But if you a lot of people don't learn by just learning from the next person. They have to have that break it down to the lowest level and build from there. So,
well, that, and also, I mean, you can't always rely on the people that you work with to be able to teach you in the most efficient manner. Right?
Yeah.
And, you know, you might work with some people that know a lot of stuff, but they might suck at right? And they don't have all the resources and stuff like that. So, yeah, you're going to end up learning maybe how to function like in a little bit or in a smaller area in order to be operationally efficient in like that particular job or in that group. But you might not end up learning all of the stuff that you would if you actually went through, you know, a real certification training process.
That's true. That's true. Because a lot of the stuff I seen on the CCNA exam, although the first 3 years of my military career, I was always in a router, always in a switch. And everything I saw, well, a lot of the stuff I saw in the exam, I had never done before.
Yeah.
And yeah, that gives you a broader foundation to work off of. And it makes you look better too. Even though you might not do it on a daily basis, just knowing that or having that knowledge will help you, you know, benefit whoever you're working for, you know. It makes you, that's it.
If you're a network administrator and your day-to-day job is just like turning up ports, right?
Yeah.
Then that's all you're going to do. You aren't going to be dealing with ACLs. You aren't going to be dealing with any routing stuff. You're not going to be dealing with any spanning tree stuff because whoever set that network up already handled all of that. You're going in and putting stuff in the right VLAN and turning stuff up and maybe putting port security on, and that's just kind of like, that's your lane, right? If the only OJT you're getting is on that, that's cool and you can be good, you know, at that, on that team, but whenever you go to do something else, someplace else, it's like, you know, your learning curve is going to be a bit heavier.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I tell people, okay, it's cool to get your certifications to get your foot in the door, but don't just grab certs just to grab them. Understand the material. Don't memorize it. Actually understand it because somebody's going to call your bluff in that interview.
Yep.
When you say you got this and got that, somebody's going to call your bluff, and you don't want to be in that situation.
Right. Yeah. So what? I'm going to go over to the CCNA for a second and pop this up here. So, out of all the stuff in the CCNA, when you were studying for that, what was the easiest for you, and which was the hardest?
I would say the access control lists. Those were pretty easy.
Yep.
That's not too bad. It's when let me see, what was.
So they kind of broke down, the test is broken down into like network fundamentals, network access, IP connectivity, IP services, security fundamentals, and so this is new. They definitely didn't have this when I was going through, is the automation and programmability.
I think that comes from them trying to get more into software-defined networking.
Yeah, most definitely.
I think that's where that will come, and that'll be a good implementation of the networking and make things flow a lot better doing it that way, especially for people who can't just get in the command line and just go crazy with it, you know. So, but the services that is one that was probably one of the hardest for me. But the networking fundamentals was easy. It reminded me of Network Plus, basically.
Yeah.
You know?
They're just going over like the different types of devices in an environment.
Stuff like that. That's why I tell people, like, I'm not a networking guru, but hey.
Yeah, I think that, and so like the services stuff, that's like doing what, like SNMP and DHCP and stuff like that.
Yeah, some of those. They also, a lot of people thought that they would talk a lot about BGP, but they had a whole lot of OSPF.
Yeah, so he's in the CCNP at least.
Yeah.
That.
I tell a lot of people, you know your OSPF, know your static routing. Like you got to know that stuff. Like that's basic stuff.
Yep.
Those two, I got a lot of questions on those two, a lot. And they threw in quite a bit of the this very basic fundamental stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just like the INCD-1 of portion of that exam. So
they still break that up like that?
Until the 23rd, yeah. After that, I think they're still keeping the ICND-1. They're getting rid of the ICND-2, and they'll just have CCNA. And you won't get into the different concentrations until you get into CCNP level.
Gotcha.
So I think that's why I was asking, should I do CCNA Security or Cyber Ops? But CCNP Security now or Cyber Ops.
Okay. But
they don't have the Cyber Ops. CCNA Cyber Ops doesn't have like a CCNP and a CCIE. It's just that one. So they don't know how long that's going to stick around or if that's going to have longevity in the game. So
is a Cyber another CCNA, like a special?
Yeah.
CCNA?
Yeah, it focuses around more so like a SOC operations, analyst stuff,
analysis logs and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, yeah. So I think that me personally, I think it's a good exam, but I never see anybody with it. I never see nobody have it. I never see jobs requesting it. I do see CCNA Security a lot. So that's
the thing that I would be concerned about, and this could be like a completely ignorant point of view just because I don't know enough about it, but my concern would be if they really try to focus completely on like the Cisco aspect,
mm-hmm.
the analysis, and then so that kind of would limit in some ways the applicability of the cert from.
No, that's a good point. I mean,
and I don't know, they could have it. It could be very generic.
Yeah.
Good. But if it is strictly just like, yeah, okay, this is how you look at logs from a Cisco Firepower, and this is how you look at logs from an ASA, I mean, that's cool if that's all you use, but if you want, something that's covering the full scope of log analysis in general, right?
Because it will be bad if you get that certification and that's all you know, and then you go to a company that use like Juniper or Palo Alto, and you're just like, I guess like the knowledge will still be somewhat the same.
Sure, I mean,
but still,
have some like critical thinking methodologies, right? In the troubleshooting and stuff like that. But I don't know. It might be the effort might be better placed looking at other certs if it's completely, vendor specific.
Yeah, definitely. I think nobody should go vendor specific until they're in that organization where it really counts the most. I would say keep a broad certification set until you get into that path, because I wanted to go into like AWS, and I was told you should probably just go get your CCSP instead, just have a foundation of everything, because you might go into AWS and then you go somewhere else and they want you to have Azure or,
I read the CCSP book. I started studying for it, and then
you're just like, nah.
I didn't. Nah. I don't know. It was a combination of I read it and nothing blew my mind. And kind of like, okay, yeah, this is all kind of like common sense type of stuff. There wasn't anything like super overly technical.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. Then I started writing on my blogs and like all this other stuff, and I just
left it at that.
It's crazy because I got the book on like the night end, like by my bed, and then I got the study guide on my desk at work, and
just let it.
Yeah, I just can't get motivated to jump back into it for whatever reason.
Nah, I get that. That's why I don't have AWS anymore. I was just looking at it and I'm just like, I don't know. It just doesn't interest me no more. I think I was just going with the wave for a second.
Yeah.
And then when I actually got into it, it's easy to understand, but they just have so many services. Like, they got something for and it's random names you wouldn't think of. Like, so I was like, yeah, this is I just go into something else.
I see a ton of people going after those AWS certs. And this is probably not no, I'm trying to think how I want to word this. If you are coming from a DoD background and you are going to stay in the DoD environment,
I only go with Microsoft.
well, not only that, I just don't think that push come to shove, that's probably the best avenue of your time spent for getting a certification.
Oh, what would you recommend?
Well, any of the stuff that you're doing, really.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like if somebody was like, hey, okay, I'm looking at getting a CISSP or AWS cert, and you're staying in government contracting, and you're going to be like in that arena, that cert probably isn't going to help you too much.
Yeah, you're right. I think the best route, especially they want to go into DoD or government contract and stuff like that, they should just go look at that chart. Was it 85-70 or whatever? Just go off that chart. That security plus security plus security plus. Well, nobody's taking nobody.
You have to get it anyway.
Yeah, you're gonna have to get it.
Have it. So start there, and then kind of like, I don't know, like especially if you aren't doing stuff in the cloud, like if that's not really your specialty or your arena, it's like, I don't know.
Well, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you? So I get a lot of questions. People ask me, coming from a non-tech background, what do I recommend them do? And I tell them, skip A plus, skip Net plus, go straight for your security plus and get a help desk job. Because you're gonna learn, if you're proactive, you're gonna learn A plus and Net plus on the job anyways. But when I took the A plus and I failed, when I took the A plus a long time ago, a lot of it was just not practical once I got on the job. A lot of the stuff they want you to know is just it's not worth anything.
Right. So I would definitely agree with the A plus. I think that the Network Plus still has some benefits there. There is definitely overlap though between that and Security Plus for sure. But I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. I mean, I guess like if you had to pick one, I guess going with the Security Plus is, a good route, but it depends. If you want to be a network engineer,
you might network
additional content in the Network Plus, which is going to make, a bit more sense. And then if you're going in the security realm, I don't know. I still think that there's that additional content is stuff that's beneficial to know, just because that's what you're trying to secure.
Yeah.
So if you don't understand the different types of architectures, and you don't understand the methodologies, and you don't understand, kind of like the foundational information, you're kind of, I don't know, not setting yourself up for failure, but you're going to make it a little bit harder to be as effective as you could right off the bat.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Me coming into it, I came in doing networking, and then I steered away from that and went more into like a help desk position.
Yep.
And I guess that's why I skipped A plus and Net plus. The only reason why I have Net plus is because, once again, the Army gave me a voucher for it, and I went to take it.
Sure.
But
so that for Net plus, I think that it's really good for people who aren't coming from a network background, because then it will give them the foundational information to understand how.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Most definitely, yeah.
Right. So if they don't have that experience of kind of like learning that stuff on the job, then they're not going to pick that up anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So the Net Plus kind of gives them, at least enough to get them pointed in the right direction. Because, dude, so many people that work in different groups that interface with like the networking groups, and just don't understand IP addresses, MAC addresses, the flow of a packet from layer 7 to layer 1, then back up to layer 7 again, and stuff like that. And so, I don't know. I think it makes him a more well-rounded engineer, especially for like systems engineers.
It does. It does. And that the OSI model that is my bread and butter. I go to that every time there's like an issue on the network. I that you can always count on the OSI model, and that I use that all the time. I tell all my soldiers like, hey, look, you got to use this, and it keeps you from being all over the place and troubleshooting. Because 9 times out of 10, when you get into an organization, when you get into an organization, it's going to already be set. And the most issues are physical.
Yeah.
And from my experience, I've always just run into physical issues on everything on the network. So
yeah, that actually would be another good podcast to do. Would be troubleshooting.
Yeah, and I tell people you cannot that's why you got to have that foundational knowledge. You cannot teach troubleshooting. Like I tell my soldiers all the time, I can lead you to the water, but I can't make you drink it. You gotta just understand the stuff. You can't just memorize it. There's nothing I can teach you on troubleshooting because with that stuff, it can be a million different problems.
Mm-hmm.
You just gotta understand it. So
well, I mean, and the good place is, did it ever work?
Huh?
A good place to start is, did it ever work?
Yeah. Yep. I always ask them, what changed?
Yep. Because a lot of times they'd be like, oh, well, I can't get to whatever. And I'm like, well, were you ever able to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, but they told me I was supposed. I'm like, okay, well, now we at least know, where to kind of start with that. And to your point, what changed? When did it change? All that type of stuff. Yeah, that's
a lot of users like, I think help desk is the perfect pivot point for anything. Like help desk is the perfect learning point, pivot point, because you see a variety of problems from different areas of IT,
mm-hmm.
and you'll come to realize like, like some of these users are crazy. Like you ask them, is it powered on? And they think you're trying to be a smart ass or something like that, but it's not. It's is real. Like, is the cable plugged in? Right. There's plenty of times I've walked over and I'm like, they're just adamant. Just come over here. When the rank thing comes into it, you like, now I got to sort of like get up and go. And then you come over and see it not plugged into the wall.
Yep.
And you're just like.
That, the capital locks, number locks, all that type of stuff. Dude, I worked one place, the general that was in charge for this whole group, and it was a few thousand people, right, for this organization. His wife was sending him emails to his government account, and she told him that she kept sending him emails and he wasn't receiving them. Mm-hmm. So, that just rolls downhill, and so everybody has to stop to find out, what's going on, what's the matter with the general's email account, what's going on, where's it getting blocked, is it getting blocked by DISA, is it getting blocked by, our own email spam filters and stuff like that, go through all that stuff, right? So, and in an organization like that, you end up pulling a whole bunch of people from the normal stuff that they're working on to like troubleshoot a high priority issue like that, right? Dude, it ended up being that she was mistyping his email. She's sending the email, right?
Hey, that sounds about right.
Right?
It's over.
And so it just goes downhill, and then you start getting people upset at contractors because they're like, oh, yeah, you guys are screwing stuff up and you're doing this and that. And then at the end of the day, it ends up just being somebody fat fingering something. And, how much, when you think about it, like, how many thousands of dollars was spent that day troubleshooting somebody fat fingering an email? Right? Because if you pull like 5 or 6 people and they're contractors, and let's say that they're, I don't know what their hourly rate is, let's say somewhere in between $100 to $200 an hour.
Now you wasted money.
Just wasted
money.
But,
I mean, military is notorious for that.
It's just wild. But normally, there's always something, as an end user, more often than not,
And the bad thing about it, you have to provide that premier customer service, and you got to sympathize with them and this and that. Like, jeez.
I mean, the other thing, and you're probably used to this too, since your background is in networking, is everybody always blames the firewall. Like the firewall, is this mythical beast that just works one day and the next day is just pissed off and just blocking people's stuff randomly, and the firewall's petty, is what it is. Just has grudges against people and it hates certain applications, and it always kills me because I'm like, look, did it work before? Okay, well, nothing in the firewall changed. So
exactly. And you always have those users that think they know your job, and they tell you, "Nah, it's the firewall. Yep. I promise it's the fire." And you're just like,
then you do like some type of trace on the firewall, and you're like, "Look, I can see the packets going through, and nothing coming back. So, what do you want to do?"
Exactly. Yep.
It's like the firewall does exactly what the firewall is told to do. It does. There's no, getting wild and just changing its mind and stuff like that. So it's always something. As a network person, you're always fighting against.
Yeah, it's all good though. Like, although the problems may be small and you go through all this troubleshooting, I always learn something doing that stuff. So it works. If it's not learning about my network, it's about learning something about an application that everybody uses or something like that. So I try to look at it like that instead of like an annoyance. Look at it as a learning opportunity. Yep. But what did I take away from, dealing with this petty issue?
Yeah.
So it builds character.
Exactly. Yeah.
Builds character.
Character or calluses? One way.
Definitely, man. Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think we covered a decent amount of stuff. I have no idea if anybody's even watching. It shows like one person watching. I don't know. Whatever. That's cool. At least it seemed like it worked out. And then published to my YouTube channel. So we'll take a look and see how it is, and then we can like reshare that out and stuff like that. So
definitely. Oh yeah. Okay.
We'll come up with some other ideas and some other stuff to talk about, and we can kind of just vibe like this and just talk about whatever. So
cool.
Pretty cool. But appreciate you taking time out of your Sunday, taking a break from your studying.
Yeah, right back to it after this. All right, man. Well, you enjoy your day.
Yeah, you too. All right, I'll chat with you later.
All right, brother.
Take care.
Yep.